Welcome to the second session of Heartful Communication. In the first session, we learnt about needs consciousness, and today we are going to learn about another crucial aspect of communication.
Okay, can we settle down? Don't think anybody's listening.
That's right. Today we are going to learn about the art of listening.
You probably know the quote from Stephen Covey when he said most people are listening in order to reply, not listening to try to understand. And it starts with being present, of being willing to be as empty as possible. I mean, we're never empty really, because we've got so much going on. But to be willing to set aside, even if we can't be empty, to set aside all that agenda that is moving in our minds all the time. To let that go and say, in this moment, let me really try to be present with my whole being, my consciousness, my body, my feelings, my open heart, my mind. Let me see if I can be really present with this other person or people, it may not be just one person, and try to understand them. So it's very simple in a way. It's like, let me try to understand what it is that they're saying. Now, for that, one of the things that we really need to let go of very fast is our opinions. We have opinions about everything, and I include myself in this, for sure. And one thing that makes a massive difference immediately is if we're willing to let go of our opinions, the instant opinion that comes up about what somebody's saying or doing or whatever. So when we're listening, we're present, we're open, we're as empty as possible, we have an intention of connection, an intention of understanding. And we also, one of the things we do in Heartful Communication is look at some of the, what I like to call circuit breakers, the habitual forms of response which break the flow, which break the connection, the circuit breakers. Things like, oh, the same thing happened to me. Somebody starts to tell a story of what's happened to them. It triggers a memory. I mean, you'll hear it everywhere. Oh, that happened to me. Or they start talking about their own situation, which is not the same. It's similar, not the same. It's one of the most habitual responses to tell your own experience immediately. And of course, then what happens is the whole focus shifts from the person who's wanting to tell you something to yourself. And before you know what's happened, the speaker becomes the listener becomes the speaker, and the whole thing has reversed. And that person who would have liked to have had a hearing ends up, maybe empathizing with you. It's very, very common. So that would be a circuit breaker. Another one would be, of course, instant fix. Well, here's what I think you should do before you've even started. Another one would be compensating for it. Well, at least you. And I remember somebody who had, very sadly, had to have an arm amputated after an engineering accident. And I remember somebody saying, "Oh, well, at least they've got the other arm," Oh. So these compensating, even consoling, it'll be all right. Another very common one is if somebody's angry, don't be angry. If somebody's worried, don't worry. It's like being, you have a feeling somebody's expressing a feeling, and the next thing is somebody's telling you, don't feel that. You know, I'm feeling really kind of embarrassed about that. Oh, don't be embarrassed. But I am embarrassed, you know. So don't feel. Another one is asking lots of questions, which is just factual. You know, somebody's had they're in ICU, they've had some, you know, oh, which hospital are they in? And, you know, it's like data, which takes the person out of their feeling state, out of where they are. And those questions that people ask are usually for them, for themselves, to kind of give them a sense of location in the experience. So these circuit breakers, which are so common, that come all the time, disrupt the connection. And of course we then can't, you know, it's not part of compassionate, deep listening. Having said all that, those kinds of interventions usually come from a caring place. They come because the person does want to connect with that person's experience. Let's say the person is expressing something which is painful or, you know, problematic for them. The kind of habitual, it's going to be okay. It comes from a caring place of wanting to sympathize and to console and comfort. It's normally a matter of timing. That in that moment, what that person really would like is empathy. Just that all those responses are not there, and that you can give your full presence, which might mean listening in almost silence, as long as your eyes are soft and connecting, not, you know, boring into them. Sometimes people say, maintain eye contact, but that can be very intimidating, you know, especially if it's something that's very, you know, tender, something that's very sensitive. You don't want to be staring at them, you know, so your eyes will meet theirs. That softness is there, but not always. That sense of the openness of your, you know, your body, that is also part of the presence. You might make little noises just like, or, you know, even those are empathic sounds that give the message, I'm with you. And to be willing to hear them out, unless you are then losing connection yourself, which can happen. You know, if somebody speaks without a break for half an hour, our own capacity to remain present is really often tested. And in that case, instead of just closing it down, we might just express using our own needs and say, you know, right now, I notice that I'm starting to get a little confused, I'm losing connection, and I really want to be able to stay in connection. How about if we have a break for a few moments? You know, in other words, you express what is authentically alive in you in that moment, because that is in the interest of connection. So even though you may not continue to be in the receiving listening mode, you say what you're going to do rather than just glazing over and stopping, you know, and just thinking, how am I going to get out of this? So when you need time out, you express that.
While it's easy to see why some of these things would break the connection, it's difficult to understand how something as well-meaning as "it will be all right" can be a circuit breaker.
It's going to be all right has a sort of ending quality to it, like it's going to be all right. That's sort of like the end of the story, you know. In other words, don't worry, it's all under control. Now, there are times when someone says it's going to be all right, it can feel very comforting, very reassuring, which is why I said it's often a matter of timing. But people may say it almost like the very first thing they say is it's going to be all right. And maybe this person needs to say a lot more about how they're feeling, what their experience is, that they need to have a listening that is longer than 30 seconds when somebody says it's going to be all right. Maybe at the end of it, actually what often happens when you really listen to somebody, that it's going to be all right comes not from the listener, but from the person who has been speaking. Because in a way, that empathy, which just connects with where they are in that moment, rather than trying to jump them into where they're not too quickly. So it's like the listening, in my sense, is that it's like a following. You're not leading, you're following. Your presence is there to receive, to follow. And what happens so often when you do that is the person, just through your presence and your willingness to be there, to connect with their feelings and needs, to empathize, happens with children too. They come to their own sense of, it may not be resolution, but completion for the moment, you might say. That's enough for now to feel settled. So they may well say, I think it's going to be all right, actually. And they've said it, not you.
Now let's watch a sample conversation where you will see some of these circuit breakers in action.
Hi Manvi.
Hi.
Manvi, I got a mail from my manager today, and it seems I've been laid off.
Oh,
I feel so devastated. I don't know what to do.
that's really sad to hear.
Yeah.
But don't worry so much. Yeah.
I don't know what to do. I mean, I had a job yesterday. I had a very well-paying job. I was planning so many things in the future.
Oh, actually, I think your parents are still working, right? At least your parents are working, so you don't have to worry that much about where the money is going to come from.
Yeah, they are working, but it's not about the money. It's about me standing on my feet, taking my own decisions, having my own family, and planning
Actually,
future.
you know what? Look at the brighter side of things. You will have time. You can invest that time in learning something new. You can take up another course. Maybe AI is really big right now. You can do something in that. That would help.
Yeah, AI is booming, and I also wanted to do that, but not leaving the job. I don't know what I can do for the next
I
1
just
year.
remembered when I lost my job, I used that time for traveling. I traveled around India and it was so much fun. Maybe you can try that too.
That sounds good, but I don't even feel like moving from my bed. I can't even think about
Oh, I
traveling right
can
now.
think of a really good solution, Harsha, for you. You can just have faith and pray one night. Everything will be okay.
Yeah, whatever.
As you can see here, the connection has been broken. Now let's watch a sample of the same conversation when the other person is present, listening, and trying to tune in to the needs being expressed.
Hi Manvi. Manvi, today I got a mail from my manager, and it seems I've been laid off.
Oh.
And I don't know what to do because I was there in the company for 5 years, and every year I was getting really good reviews, and I was planning to maybe go up the ladder, take up leadership positions, and this would have really helped me in my next venture I was thinking about. Now it just ended all of a sudden. I don't know what to do.
Oh. That sounds like a challenging situation. Are you stressed right now?
Not really stressed. I don't know what to do. So many thoughts going in my mind because I had a plan of maybe next 5 years down in the same company and then start my own venture. And now I don't think I can do that. I needed that financial security. I don't have that kind of money right now. And I can't go back to a firm with this in my resume being laid off. So I don't know.
Oh. So probably you're very confused what to do right now, and maybe you'd like some kind of support and guidance.
Yeah, actually, I'm really confused. I don't know what to do. And yeah, I think a little bit of support would really help. I'm wondering what to do. I think one of my uncle, who's also in this field, I think if I talk to him, it would really help. And yeah, I will do that actually. That would give me a lot of clarity and support that I need. Thanks a lot for listening, Manvi. It really helped me. Thank you.
This illustrates how empathic listening can really help somebody. We also asked Liz Kingsnorth whether deep listening and needs consciousness have helped in any particular situation in her life.
I lived in a house, this was in Scotland, which had no access to the backyard except through my neighbour's yard or through the house. There was no side entrance into my yard, my back garden. And I had recently purchased this house and I wanted to do a major renovation in the back garden. And my neighbour, whose access I needed, had agreed that the workmen could come through carrying, this was heavy stuff, this is bags of cement, this is rocks, big timbers, soil, all kinds of things had to come through his garden into my garden. So the project was about 2 weeks in, and it was all going okay, but there was a lot still to do. And I woke up one morning and found out that he had locked the gate between our two properties, not just locked it, but barricaded it with all kinds of garden furniture and, timber and so forth. In other words, when my guys were due to arrive in the morning, there's no way they would be able to get into my property at all. And I could hear him sort of crashing about, behind the fence, and realize that he was really angry. So I thought, okay, I'm going to need to go out and listen to this man. Now, mostly people say I'm going to have to go and talk to him. But I'm going to need to go and listen to this man and find out what's troubling him. So I go outside and there he is. He is very, very angry. And I just begin with very neutral comment and say, John, I noticed that the gate is locked this morning. And that was all I needed to say. And off he went like a kind of exploding rocket, and he was saying things like, who are these damn people anyway? And how long is this thing going to go on? I thought it would have been finished by now. And, you haven't given me any sense of time frame. And they all just come here and they take their time. I don't even know who they are. That was his first thing. So, okay, so now I need to hear his feelings, which are pretty obvious, and what he's longing for that isn't happening. He's got needs in there that are not fulfilled. So I said, right, sounds like you're really furious, John, because you want to know who these people are and you would like to have a clear sense, some clarity about the time frame that we're working to. Is that right? So do you see, I'm just hearing what matters to him. And he said, well, yes. And then he said, and you see that shed up there in my garden? That is my home office, he said. My computer is in there, all my work is in there. And so I said, right, so you're worried, you want to make sure that things that are really important to you, that are precious, that are valuable, are safe. And he said, well, of course. Do you see, I'm getting the yes. And I'm not just justifying, I'm not defending in any way, I'm just focusing on what matters to him. And then he said something like, and see all these, these are lettuces. I've got a kitchen garden here, little plants growing, and they're coming in here with their great big boots. They're just walking all over everything. So again, I need to connect with his needs. I say, so you really want people to take care, to respect what you're doing on your property, and to realize that this is something that is important to you, and to keep to the paths. Well, yes, he said. So each time I need to just focus on what matters to him, his needs. Now, to finish the story very quickly, is that I think there were probably just 2 more interchanges where he was saying something. By the way, his rage was coming down. It was reducing each time. 2 more interchanges. Each time I'm just connecting with his needs, his feelings and his needs. You know, are you worried? Are you angry? Are you whatever it might be? And the need. And then he said, well, okay, so let me know when your guys are coming and I'll open the gate. It took 5 minutes. That's all it took. And even I was shocked at how fast connecting with somebody's needs without defending myself, in other words, empathizing, feeling my way into, and quickly, and of course you have to do it, you know, right immediately. There's no point saying, I understand that right now you're feeling, you know, distressed and upset. No, this man is really angry. So I needed to match his energy also. You know, that was part of the empathy, was to have that kind of vigor with him. But I was amazed, and he meant it, and he did. So when the guys came, so then my next contribution was to recognize what he wanted and say, okay, here's what I'm going to do about it. In other words, those needs then need to be translated into action, to try to do something from my part that will help to fulfill his needs. So I said, when they come, I'll make sure that you're introduced to the supervisor and to the guys. I'll ask them, and we will share in the conversation what their time frame is. I'll say to them, when you come in here, you please walk only on this path, and you come through as quickly as you can, and please have respect for anything else that you see in the garden. In other words, remembering his needs, I then made offers, which I then kept to. And from that moment on, the project, you know, proceeded in a harmonious fashion, and it all got done. And the golden key that made the difference was having the needs consciousness and recognizing that this man was not a bad man, he wasn't an aggressive man, he wasn't being unreasonable, all those other things which I could have said about him in my mind, just that some things really mattered to him. His need for respect, for privacy, for care, for clarity, you know, those were his needs. And then this is what I mean about it creates the connection, the understanding. This man then felt understood, recognized, and respected for what mattered to him. I didn't need to put my point of view. It wasn't needed at that point. He knew perfectly well what mattered to me, which was to try to complete this. I didn't need to remind him about that. It would have been, you know, fuel on the fire to say, well, what about my... So it also requires a kind of, I suppose, some sense of composure within yourself, you know, some sense of I feel enough resourced inside myself that I can leave my own needs to one side. I don't need to reiterate those. I don't need to be in that awareness. But if I'm in what we would call empathy deficit myself, if I'm feeling empty and that nobody understands me, it's very difficult then to empathize with somebody else. You know, if my own empathy cup is not filled sufficiently, how do I have anything that's left over, you know, to offer to somebody else? Which is why in Heartful Communication we put a very strong emphasis on making sure that we are, as much as possible, centered within ourselves, that we're aware of our own needs, that we can give ourselves empathy, even emergency first aid self-empathy, in the moment when we are triggered, to be able to connect with my own needs, so that we have that sense of centeredness, which then can manifest in presence. And in a way, I would say to be present, really present, is almost like the answer to most things, you know. In a way, it precedes listening. It precedes anything. It's just that sense of being willing to be centered, take the time to use pause, even if pause seems, I haven't got time to pause, you know. It only takes a few seconds. And that moment of pausing, connecting with my heart, reminding myself that human beings are, for the most part, always trying to do their best. It's just that we haven't learned this language, we haven't learned this awareness. You know, we've been habituated in our lives to think in terms of split, of duality, you know, of what's right and what's wrong, which, okay, there are right and wrong ways to do things, you might say. But when we accuse the other of being wrong or right, then that disconnection is there. And Marshall Rosenberg, who's the originator of nonviolent communication, which is a very important aspect of heartful communication, you know, he said that most of the time, human beings are playing the game of who's right? Who's right? And then trying to prove that I'm right and the other person therefore becomes wrong, obviously. And nobody likes to be wrong. So there's the disconnect right there. So this consciousness of needs is a way that you can then transform this game that we're playing so much of the time of wanting to win points, to be right. And you know, what I've discovered and other people have also discovered is that there really is I like the word sweetness. There's a sweetness in being wrong, in that willingness to be wrong, because then you put the relationship above winning points, above being right. Because, you know, if you're right and you prove you're right and the other person feels in some way embarrassed or uncomfortable or humiliated, you've damaged the relationship. Is it worth it just to win an argument? I don't think so.
That brings us to the end of this second session of Heartful Communication. Thank you for listening, and do join us for the next session. Sit comfortably and close your eyes softly and gently. Feel a healing energy move up from the earth into your toes, feet, and ankles. Feel your toes relax and your feet relax, and allow your ankles to relax. Now feel this healing energy move up to your knees. As it moves up, it relaxes your calf muscles. Feel this energy remove all the tension from your knees. Now it is moving further up your legs, into your thighs. Feel your thighs relaxing. Now the energy has moved into your hips and waist. Feel them relax. As the energy moves up, your lower back is relaxing. and your stomach. Now the energy has moved into your chest area. Feel it relax. Feel the energy move up your back and into your shoulders. Feel your upper back relax. And feel your shoulders simply melting away. The energy is now moving into your arms. They too are getting relaxed. Feel all the tension from your elbows leaving. And as the energy moves into your forearms, they too are getting relaxed. Remove all the tension from your wrists as the energy moves into your hands and right up to your fingertips. Now move your attention up to your neck. The energy is moving up and relaxing your neck muscles. Now it is moving into your face, relaxing your jaw and mouth. The energy moves into your nose and eyes, relaxing them. Your cheek muscles are relaxed. Feel your earlobes relax. And now the energy is moving all the way up to the top of your head. Feel it relax. Feel your entire body is relaxed from top to toe. Now move your attention to your heart. Feel that a source of light is already present in your heart, and it is attracting you from within. Do not try and see the light, just know that it is there in your heart. Be open and receptive to a very subtle energy flowing into you. Relax into this feeling. If you find your awareness drifting at any time to other thoughts, don't fight them. Let them be. Gently remind yourself that you are meditating on the light in your heart. Allow yourself to become more and more absorbed within. Remain absorbed until you hear further guidance. while keeping your eyes closed, gently come out of the state of meditation. Now gently open your eyes. Reflect on what you just experienced. Try and retain this condition as you return to your daily routine.